Hi, Denny Johnson here again. There's something I'd like to present that will do you a whole bunch of good if you just take a little time to look at it. It has to do with the nature of feelings extended through the art or gift or attribute of empathy. Empathy would normally be defined as the ability to feel the feelings of others. Um, yes, I like that definition, but I think there's also more to it because empathy is an extension of our existence. It's an extension of our capacity to feel and then to feel life around us. I've had a series of experiences about empathy, and I would like to share with you how I got there, what it means, and where I currently am with it. I had started to really examine for an extended period of time, probably well over 2 years. I spent a dedicated amount of time examining the nature of humility. To me, my reason for doing that is because humility represented the number one sun. It represents the lung, breathing, ultimately metabolism and inspiration. So the ability to expand one's aspiration and receive inspiration had to do with the degree of humility. So to me, humility is an expandable attribute. So I spent time wanting to increase my ability to expand, dilate, or enrich my experience of feeling through humility. Now, for me, humility is related to the mother's side of the family. So that's the first bridge I needed to examine, still am. The second part of that bridge was my mother's father. This link, your mother's relationship to her father, is the ruling mechanism of the breath, of the lungs, and everything to do with the ability to be able to expand the entire mother's side of the family. And as you probably already know, the mother side has 6 primary points, and they are related to the different parts of the glands and organs and body systems, acupuncture points and chakra systems that correspond with my own soul's feeling existence. So I did many different exercises to try and move that. I won't go into them right now because this is mostly about some of the results. Well, the result of doing this, I found myself re examining my motives for wanting to feel, which also incorporates my intentions for why I'm doing this. And it also gave me the opportunity to measure my sincerity. To me, sincerity is oftentimes a derivative of the amount of time I'm actually willing to try and experience or learn something. And for me, if I'm really willing to learn one thing, I like to spend a dedicated 2 hours at a time doing only that, and then periodically go back to it throughout the day. Yeah, that sounds pretty intense, but to me, it's the best way to have an experience. Then I had the experience of an opening of empathy, which was at least 5 to 7 times stronger than my current level of empathy. But that empathy gave me now an enhanced infusion of the ability not only to feel feelings, but to feel nature in a richer way. so I could extend my empathy to appreciate grass on the lawn, or the ivy that's climbing on the side of the tree, or the tree itself. So I could feel with an extension of my empathy, and they became like an extension of the sense of touch. So that's how I feel about empathy. It's an extension of the capacity to feel. In my exercise of exuberance to do it externally, I had a very clear, audible message that said, put it inside. And like a rebellious child at first, why put empathy inside when you can do it outside where it's meant to be? But I went ahead and cooperated with the insight that came, the suggestion. And the moment I put it inside, I began to do something which I'd never done in the same way before, which was to do discernment. Discernment is an acceleration of empathy. Empathy, oftentimes we call it the two-girl function. It's mother's mother. It is a direct ability to be able to become independent. So the ability to be independent gave me the opportunity to distinguish something from another. The ability to distinguish two different parts was discernment. Now, I found that discernment gave me the opportunity to see the difference between my feelings and the feelings of my mother, which sometimes we forget that we are very much blended or bonded into our mother biochemically and otherwise. And sometimes it's difficult to get my feelings out of my mother's feelings. Oh, by the way, this is true for everyone else. And sometimes we need to be able to discern what we're feeling. So, for example, if I'm experiencing sadness, which everyone does to many degrees, that sadness corresponds to the lung function. But that sadness is a consolidated group of people and their experience of sadness. And now I need to be able to discern the difference between everyone else's experience of sadness inside me versus my sadness. In many ways, it was a lot like this. My actual sadness was very personal. And then there was a whole group of other people's sadness, and mine was mixed in with theirs. So these waves of sadness would keep coming back until I began to see, I will apply the empathy to discern my father's sadness about the loss of his own mother, or my mother's sadness about the loss of her father. My own mother lost her mother, my grandmother, when my mother was only 5 years old. She could not even remember her mother. But that feeling in her, I needed to be able to use my empathy to discern the difference between my mother's sadness and my own sadness. That may not feel like it's very important, but it is hugely important. It's not my job to process the sadness of other people. But genetically, that's exactly what we do. That the sadness and many other feelings that our ancestors have, they cascade down to us based on the law of cause effect. That if they have a sadness, it's not dealt with, it's crystallized in the gene code, and it starts cascading down. And then, by the nature of the law of replication, that sadness needs to become a currently emotional law of attraction for me to feel the sadness of one of my ancestors. No, I don't want to do that. I appreciate they have their issues, their souls, they can deal with their own repercussions, and I'm willing to assist with that later on, and that might be called compassion. But first, I want to be able to distinguish my own sadness versus anybody else's sadness. That's why it's so significant. So the ability to be able to discern different frequencies or different emotional experiences. For example, I put a picture up which has a symbol of a lake. The symbol of the lake is a symbol of the two girl. That's the ability to be able to feel an independent existence of one's own self. The extension of that is the empathy. Now, if you look closely, there's a whole series of different colors here. I'm not sure of the number, the lake, the rocks in the back, the mountains, the white, the clouds, the blue, the whatever color you want to call that, turquoise color, the white, the dark blue, the orange, the lighter orange, the darker orange, little shades of something green or otherwise, yellow in the background, and this other one. This is the nature of discernment. For me to be able to discern the feelings that are arriving to me from different people. Yes, all of them, with the rare exception, in my case, all of these ancestors have passed, but their feelings are still alive and moving and flowing inside me. So I found that by the sincere desire to want to discern the difference between two things: feelings that were put there by someone else. That happens to open up, by the way, into broader and broader numbers of categories. We'll come back to it. And the other one is feelings put there by me. Now that's very different. The actual feelings, in this case, sadness, that I voluntarily experience to use my will to express or distribute or transmit my sadness to others, either through self-pity or through emotional manipulation, wide varieties of ways that people use their own emotional structure as a way to get other people to do what they want. Yes, I've done that plenty of times, but I want to be able to distinguish the feelings put there by me using my will versus the feelings put there by someone else, not including my will. Now, these, the ones put there by someone else, are actually the ones that can be removed most easily. The other one requires a whole nother story. Because I put them with my will, they're vastly stronger than the ones that were put there by someone else. Yes, I'm saying that my own will and yours is actually stronger than your DNA. You're not bound by the methylation crystals of your epigenetics. But we need to be able to discern to me, which one did I transmit? Now we'll come back to the one that's transmitted to me, and that's the ability to be able to feel things inside myself and desire to want to know the truth about this specific feeling. Now, in the past, we've talked about the protocol. We're not going to go there right now. Where you have a trigger, I sincerely want to know the truth about this feeling. I want to know the truth about this feeling. I want to know the truth about the arrival of a law of attraction event that's bringing me feelings all day long. But in this case, the sincere desire to feel sadness, a specific frequency of feeling that affects primarily the lungs. Yes, you can have other body parts involved in it. It can be sadness, lung down to the colon function, if I have sadness followed by disappointment. Or another part of the heart would be hopelessness. Or if it's sadness followed by passive anger, or sadness followed by envy or greed, or you name it, sadness can be the beginning point because number one, sun is the beginning point. So I urge you to examine your own sadness. How? Pray for sadness. Pray to receive sadness. Show me the truth about the sadness inside me. Show me the sadness I'm denying within my own soul, I'm denying in my own heart. Ask to receive the sadness. No, it's not a matter that you're going to create new sadness and you're going to hurt yourself and all of this. No, that's simply not true. If you pray to receive sadness, you're going to only receive the sadness you already have. You're praying for it to be revealed. In the process of revealing that sadness, it gives you the opportunity to welcome the sadness, which, by the way, is an open heart function. You allow the feeling of that sadness to flow. Thank you. Nice word, by the way, which means I received it with my heart. And you process the feeling of the sadness and you say, show me the truth. No, you don't need to know where it comes from. And you will go through a spectrum of different feelings of sadness because sadness affects the kidney in one way. It affects the spleen in another way. It affects the pineal in another way, and the pituitary, and the thyroid and thymus. It affects the heart and the liver in different ways. But it emanates from the original experience of sadness. Now that's affecting the parameter and the richness of your breathing, your own lungs. So empathy is an instrument you can give yourself. Now, in the process of feeling and processing this, I'm saying that the primary way to open the lake of empathy is to have a sincere desire to feel every feeling inside my own soul. Now, the richness of that is sincerity. The intention of this is to be alive, to grow, to be responsible. You can do it for whatever motivation you want. You can do it for health, you can do it for happiness, you can do it for receiving divine love, but it's really about the increase or the dilation of your own heartfelt desire for humility, which is your own soul's apparatus for experiencing infinity. Humility is the one thing I'm pretty sure that we'll all be doing for a very long time. So the exercise of wanting to breathe with that humility will automatically lead to an experience of the increase of empathy. Now, one of the reasons for that, the lung, mother's father, humility, number one son, is married to mother's mother. All it is your mother's parents. So if you increase the masculine on that side, then you're automatically going to have an increase of the feminine. So the increase of humility increases the greater magnitude of empathy. Then you have to decide, can you exercise the experience of discernment? Yeah, I know that's a lot to consider. It may seem like a little bit of work, and it is, but it's well worth it. And oh, by the way, you have plenty of time. Do it when you're ready. See you soon.